Hello there and welcome to World News Program streaming to you live on All 24 News. I'm your host, Griffith Zachary, and up next are the top stories. Over 120 Palestinians were killed in a Zionist attack on a school. Hamas denies Israel's claims while Palestinian factions call for more resistance and blame Washington for the ongoing violence. Algeria urges the UN Security Council to address the Gaza massacre and enforce a ceasefire. Arab nations condemn the attack while UNRWA calls it another day of horror. That's next. Also coming up, Algeria urges preserving the ceasefire in Libya and calls for wisdom to prevent further tragedy. And the Presidential Council seeks a timeline to end foreign presence. And Russia repels a Ukrainian attack on Kursk and begins a new defensive while evacuating over 76,000 people. Moscow also strikes Ukrainian border areas. The details are right after the break. Hello again and welcome to the details. First off in our news, on the ground in the Gaza Strip, Zionist forces launched an airstrike during dawn prayers on Saturday, hitting a school in Gaza City. The attack claimed the lives of over 120 Palestinians and left dozens more injured. The school was sheltering displaced families, making the strike especially devastating. Sarah Frigeni reports now.
In one of the most horrific massacres in recent weeks, Zionist occupation forces targeted another school, resulting in over 100 martyrs and numerous injuries. Displaced Palestinians sheltering inside the Tابعouna school in Gaza City's Daraj neighborhood were performing dawn prayers when the occupation struck their missiles. The martyrs' bodies were engulfed in flames and torn apart, exemplifying the occupation's relentless brutality against those who had already been displaced from their homes.
This morning at dawn, as we were performing the Fajr prayers, we were shocked by a direct Israeli bombing on the El Tabi'in Quranic school, which shelters more than 6,000 displaced people. These individuals had taken refuge there after the Israeli occupation forces destroyed their homes in various areas of the Gaza Strip. These two floors were directly targeted, resulting in the deaths of more than 93 martyrs, including 11 children and 6 women, and dozens of injured, some of whom have been admitted to intensive care, while others are in very critical condition.
Amidst the countless martyrs, Gaza sheds tears while laying its fallen to rest in their final graves. This crime ranks as the third largest catastrophe following the Baptist and Mawasi massacres, revealing the horrific nature of what is happening in Gaza while the world remains indifferent.
It's a mosque inside a school. People were praying the dawn prayer. They struck 3 missiles and one didn't explode. It's on the rooftop. Remains of people, children, women, and elders were here. What did they do? Look, these are remains everywhere. They are from the displaced people who fled to here.
Everyone here is a civilian. They were staying with us in these rooms because their homes had been hit. They had no other place to take shelter except this school. So please, pay attention to us. People, have mercy on us.
The cycle of violence continues, with this massacre forming part of a systematic campaign targeting schools and shelters for the displaced. This atrocity is yet another chapter in a broader campaign of genocide and ethnic cleansing against the Palestinian people.
Hamas has strongly denied the Zionist entity's claims that its members were at the site of the Tابعouna school where the massacre in Daraj, central Gaza City, took place. The resistance argues that these claims are false and an attempt to justify the attacks on civilians. They assert that their fighters are prohibited from being among civilian populations.
There were no armed individuals at the Tabi'in school, and the enemy forces are once again lying and fabricating absurd excuses to target civilians. The strict policy followed by fighters from all factions is to avoid being among civilians and to protect them from Israeli targeting.
Palestinian factions have strongly condemned the attack on Tabi'in school. Hamas described it as a horrific crime and a dangerous escalation, while Islamic Jihad branded it a war crime and criticized the lack of international response. For its part, Fatah movement is calling for immediate international intervention to halt the systematic genocide against Palestinians. The Palestinian presidency, for its part, condemned the Zionist massacre at the Tabi'in school and blamed the U.S. for its support of occupying Israel. Spokesperson Nabila Borodainé stated that the attack is part of a series of ongoing crimes against Palestinians and held the U.S. as well directly responsible for the continued aggression in Gaza. And on Saturday, participants in a large march in Nablus condemned the ongoing occupation massacres against Palestinians in Gaza. The march, involving local Palestinian representatives, featured protesters holding signs denouncing the recent Zionist attacks, including the morning's bombing that killed over 120 Palestinians at the Tabi'in school.
Israel committed this horrible massacre as part of its efforts to conduct terrible genocide against the whole population of Gaza. But Netanyahu has an additional goal, which is to undermine completely any possibility of ceasefire in Gaza and to undermine even the talks that are supposed to start soon about ceasefire.
Major cities worldwide saw large protests condemning the ongoing Zionist genocide in Gaza. Thousands demonstrated in Budapest, Paris, London, Copenhagen, and other Western cities. Protesters carried Palestinian flags and signs denouncing occupation massacres and called for an end to the double standards and accountability for Zionist occupation crimes. Meanwhile, Algeria has called for an urgent open session of the UN Security Council to address the Gaza massacre in a Daraj neighborhood. According to Algerian state television, the Algerian mission to the UN requested the session for Tuesday to discuss Zionist massacres against Palestinians, part of a broader campaign of genocide and ethnic cleansing by occupation forces. On Saturday, Algeria urged for an immediate, permanent and sustainable ceasefire in Gaza. The country reaffirmed its commitment to the UN resolution it helped negotiate and voiced support for efforts to implement the resolution swiftly, including the joint statement from Qatar and Egypt, as well as the United States. Arab nations and international bodies have condemned the attack on Gaza's Tabi'in school. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and Oman have demanded an end to the violence and criticized the lack of international action. Lebanon and Iraq are calling for a unified international response to safeguard Palestinians, while Qatar is pushing for an urgent investigation. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait condemned the Zionist attack on a shelter for displaced people in Gaza's Daraj neighborhood. He denounced the ongoing genocide against Palestinians as a license for unchecked violence and called on the international community to exert pressure on the entity. Still with this file, the Arab Parliament this time condemned the Tabi'in school attack as a terrorist act and a flagrant violation of international law. They criticized it as a sign of the Zionist entity's rejection of peace and ongoing campaign of genocide, especially as ceasefire efforts were underway. UN Special Reporter Francesca Albanese affirmed that the Zionist entity is committing genocide in Gaza with US and European weapons. while civilized nations remain indifferent. She called for independent, transparent investigations and accountability as crucial steps towards peace. EU High Representative Josep Borrell described images from the Thabani school in Gaza as horrifying. In a post on X, Borrell revealed that Israeli forces have targeted at least 10 schools in recent weeks in unjustifiable massacres.
The photos taken by a safe haven school in Gaza that was hit by a Zionist strike, with dozens of Palestinian victims, are terrifying. At least 10 schools have been targeted in recent weeks. There is no justification for these massacres, and we are appalled by the terrible total number of deaths. More than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the war. A ceasefire is the only way to stop the killing of civilians and secure the release of prisoners.
For his part, in a brief statement on X, UNRWA Commissioner General Filippo Lazzarini called the Thabani school massacre another day of horror in Gaza.
Another day of terror in Gaza has followed the bombing of a school and the killing of dozens of Palestinians, including women, children, and the elderly. All parties involved are obligated to protect civilians and critical infrastructure, including schools and UN facilities. Civilian infrastructure should not be considered legitimate targets. It's crucial to put an end to these ongoing horrors and atrocities. We cannot accept these events as a new normal. As they become more frequent, we risk losing our collective humanity.
In another story, Palestinian Civil Defense reported that Zionist forces have attacked 13 shelters for displaced people in Gaza since August.
The
Israeli occupation in its ongoing aggression against the Gaza Strip is escalating its attacks on displacement centers and tents. Since the beginning of August, it has targeted 13 shelters, including tents, schools, and housing centers. It deeply wounds our hearts that the martyrs in Gaza have become mere numbers, mentioned as if they were nothing, without the international community addressing the crimes committed against innocent civilians or issuing direct condemnations against this Israeli occupation, which continues to target more shelters.
To the total death toll now, occupation forces committed 3 massacres in Gaza in just 24 hours, resulting in 40 martyrs and 140 injured. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that the death toll has risen to 39,790, with 91,702 injured since October 7th. And in the past 2 days, Zionist forces arrested at least 40 Palestinians, including a woman, children, and former prisoners across the West Bank. The Palestinian Prisoners Club reported widespread abuse, damage to homes, and that over 10,000 Palestinians have been detained since the start of the Zionist aggression. To other topical news now, and as you followed in our headlines, Algeria affirmed its complete alignment with the UN's concerns regarding the recent troop mobilization in various areas of Libya, particularly in the south and west. The Algerian Foreign Ministry stated that halting conflicts between rival factions is a crucial achievement that must be preserved, despite the numerous obstacles to finding a peaceful resolution to Libya's crisis. Algeria urged all Libyan parties to exercise wisdom and restraint to avoid catastrophic consequences. The Foreign Ministry warned that renewed conflicts would undermine peace efforts, reconciliation, institutional reunification, and stability, while jeopardizing Libya's future security and prosperity. Via a post on the X platform, the head of Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed al-Menfi, called for a unified national defense committee to secure borders and foreign presence and protect strategic sites. Al-Menfi emphasized using a realistic timeline for negotiations and involving the people to ensure stability and good governance. Ibrahim Boughali, Speaker of the Algerian National Assembly, will represent President Abdelmadjid Tebboune at the inauguration of Rwanda President Paul Kagame on Sunday in Kigali. According to a statement from the Algerian People's National Council, Boughali traveled to Rwanda on Saturday for the ceremony, which will be attended by numerous world leaders and their representatives. Algerian Army General Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Saïd Chengriha, praised the high-level leadership's approach to enhancing the military's capabilities during a ceremony honoring top students from the national education system. Chengriha stated that this success reflects the effective and, let's say, forward-looking or forward-thinking strategy adopted by the leadership to advance the Army's capabilities.
على إثر النتائج الممتازة والباهرة.
Regarding the excellent and outstanding results achieved by the nation cadet schools in the baccalaureate and middle school leaving certificates for June 2024, I am pleased to convey to you, the distinguished nation cadets, the congratulations and best wishes of President of the Republic, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, and Minister of the National Defense, who encourages you to continue achieving success and excellence in your future educational and professional paths. I also extend my personal congratulations through you to all your peers who have earned these two certificates on this well-deserved success, which is the result of your hard work and dedication throughout the academic year.
And in another story, Ghada Wali, head of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, praised Algeria for its key role in negotiating the UN Cybercrime Convention. In a call with Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, she lauded Algeria's leadership and achievement, noting the convention's significance as the first international legal framework on cybercrime. Both agreed to continue enhancing coordination for the convention's formal adoption at the UN General Assembly in September. Ahead of the September 7th presidential elections in Algeria, a draw was held on Saturday at the International Conference Center Abdelatif Rahal to allocate airtime for candidates on audiovisual media. The draw determined the allocation of 6-minute segments for each of the 3 candidates on public media outlets.
There is material preparation, there is human preparation, and there is legal preparation. And at all levels, the national authority is ahead of time in comparison to what it should have done in the same period of time. Honestly, we are ahead of schedule at all levels. I say it with my head held high. At all the levels of the organization of the presidential process, we are ahead of time, thank God. It's now up to the voters to play their role by participating so that we strengthen the democratic process in our country.
After 30 months of conflict, Ukrainian tanks have crossed into Sumy, Russia. Despite Moscow's claims of controlling the situation, fierce battles have been ongoing for 4 days as Russian forces try to halt the Ukrainian advance. More with Nabil Khazini on this story.
After around 30 months of war, the focus now shifted to Russian soil. These Ukrainian tanks are moving across the border in Sumy, where the last surprising Ukrainian incursion into the Russian territory has initially begun. On the other side, the Russian forces are busy fighting back to stop their enemy from taking control of the Russian land. But despite Moscow saying it had taken control of the situation and stopped the advance of the Ukrainian forces, fierce battles are still raging for the fourth day.
Last night, the Russian National Anti-Terrorism Committee established a system of anti-terrorist operations in the Kursk, Bryansk and Belgorod regions. This means that from today, travel is subject to special restrictions. Document checks will be carried out in the event of a threat of terrorist acts.
Last Tuesday, Ukrainian army units were able to cross the border and penetrate the Kursk region, advancing several kilometers. As a response, Russia has rushed to deploy additional troops and equipment, including tanks, rocket launchers, and aviation, to try to halt the Ukrainian offensive. Neither side has disclosed exactly how many troops have been deployed.
Особливо відзначу 47-му.
Today, I received several reports from Commander-in-Chief regarding the front lines and our actions to push the war onto the aggressor's territory. I'm grateful to every unit of defense forces ensuring that Ukraine is proving that it can indeed restore justice and ensure the necessary pressure on the aggressor.
Local authorities in Russia said more than 76,000 people had been evacuated from areas bordering Ukraine in Kursk region, with thousands of them being transferred to safe areas to receive urgent aid and medical treatment. Additional trains were allocated to transport people wishing to flee to Moscow.
All the way to Latin America now, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro ruled out any negotiations with the opposition following the presidential election results, urging opposition leader Maria Corina Machado to surrender. Speaking to reporters after leaving the Attorney General's office on Friday, Maduro stated that the only person who should negotiate with Machado is the Attorney General, emphasizing that she should face justice for her crimes.
Regarding the negotiation, I think the only one who has to negotiate with Machado in this country is the general prosecutor. She should surrender, face and answer for the crimes she committed. That is the only negotiation that fits here. For political dialogue, all sectors will be summoned. I am going to summon the 38 political parties that are registered before the CNE, all 38.
Que están inscritos ante el CNE, a los 38.
To sports news now. Algerian runner Jamal Sajjadi won the bronze medal in the 800-meter race. This makes Algeria's third medal at the Olympics, following golds by Kylian Amour in gymnastics and Iman Khalif in boxing. The gold went to Kenyan Emmanuel Wanyonye and the silver to Canadian Marco Arip. And on this occasion, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune congratulated runner Jamal Sajjadi on winning the bronze medal in the 800-meter race at the 2024 Olympics. In a post on X, Abdelmadjid Tebboune praised Sajjadi for his strong performance and podium finish. Residents of Tiaret, Western Algeria, celebrated all night on Friday to honor boxer Iman Khalif's gold medal win at the Paris Olympics. Public spaces were set up with large screens for families to watch the match. And the joy spread to the main streets of Tiaret following the official announcements of Khalif's gold medal. Olympic champion Iman Khalif said in a statement to our channel that her historic achievement is a response to the fierce criticism she faced.
نحمل الذهب ونستاهلوا نطلعوا ويعزف نشيد وطني.
We deserve the gold medal and we deserve to hear our national anthem resounds here in Paris. This victory wasn't easy. I've been here in this Olympic village for 20 days. I was the first athlete who entered the village and thank God I won the gold medal. As a matter of fact, winning a gold medal in the Olympic Games is not simple. Long suffering and exhaustion that have lasted for years have led to a gold medal. Thank God. I want to share this medal with all the Algerian people and the Arab world, especially that I was subjected to a fierce campaign against me and the response was to win in this gold medal.
الحمد لله وكان الرد عن طريق ميدالية ذهبية.
Well, that concludes our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning into our channel. Until next time, do take care.